When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
All right, he done did it. Ooh, this guy right here, he done did it. I seen Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, only get to a level 10 one time, okay? And I've watched a lot of Cornel West interviews, seminars, teachings, sit downs, whatever you want to call it. I read all his books. I've only seen him once lose his cool and just flip his wig, okay? And that was with Candace Owens. Maybe twice with the other brother who said, you know, I am not your brother. He did kind of lose his cool there. But now with Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dummy, okay, you do not want to take Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, his kindness for weakness. Okay, like I told you, this is not Cornel West's first rodeo. Okay, just because he's an activist for black folks and he's always talking about love and calling people his brothers and sisters and always talking about jazz music, that does not mean you have the caucasity to try to steamroll someone like a Dr. Cornel West. You just out of your damn mind. And Mr. Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dummy, is out of his damn mind. So let's go ahead and watch a few clips on an interview. Cornel West was invited by Jimmy Dore, of course, and it's like 45 minutes. So I highly suggest you go and watch the video. I mean, you don't have to subscribe, but go ahead and watch the video to watch the full conversation. But we're going to point out two main important instances throughout this interview. I think is probably the most important, and we're gonna have that conversation. I know the importance of having reliable sources and having resources outside of your echo chamber. I bring to you Ground News. Ground News is a unique product in the market. No other news platform offers the diversity of sources and levels of analysis that they provide. Ground News is a website and app that gathers news from 50,000 sources around the world and puts related articles in one place so you can easily compare coverage. Ground News lets you see the story behind the story using data-driven analysis that looks at things like the political bias, reliability, and ownership of news outlets. One tool that I find extremely helpful is avoiding echo chambers. Ground News gives you the tools to view multiple viewpoints, avoiding the dangers of confirmation bias, and a healthy skepticism and critical thinking skills. And one important key that separates Ground News from the rest is its foundation. A small team of independent media outsiders supported by the subscribers and individual investors who are concerned about the future of news. And it's not a large company founded by big tech or institutional investors. So if you guys are ready to upgrade the way that you see news and want to support the channel at the same time, go ahead and click the special link down below. Now let's get back to the video.
And the credibility that you have in regard to being consistently against war, consistently against capital, consistently against white supremacy, even if it has different kind of stances from one election to the next. That would be one of the ways in which I would try to respond to that. That would be the beginning of a response to that.
Okay. Here's another tweet from Nick. He says the same professional managerial class gaslighters want us to take it easy on Bernie. They use civility politics as a weapon so they can comfortably sell out. The working class must reject this and start holding these people accountable for selling us out. So Bernie has sold us out, and I don't need you to call him a sellout or anything. That's fine. But I do want to see, this is your response, because Bernie was asked about your campaign, and he said it shouldn't happen, and he's against it, and he's endorsing Biden, and of course, that is just garbage. And so this is how you responded.
And you know, you even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think again, he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump.
So when my what I would say to you here, and this is a big point, and I'm trying to impress upon you going forward, that when you do that, you sound a little bit like Joe Biden, and what you're doing is you're giving a pass to Bernie Sanders and anybody else for voting lesser of two evils. So you're endorsing the Democrats' message in their campaign. And so now people can dismiss your candidacy and say, well, we got to worry about the neo-fascism of Trump, as if Joe Biden isn't worse, which he is. He's a bigger fascist. And he just crushed a union strike on the railroad, which is the definition of fascism. He's now trying to saber rattle with two nuclear powers, nuclear war, nothing more important than that. And what he's doing in Ukraine, you know exactly what he's doing, right? So he's the worst warmonger in the world. 300,000 Ukrainians have already been slaughtered in this proxy war that was provoked by NATO, which you know. So when do you think that when you say that about, when you call Donald Trump a neo-fascist and you don't say that about Joe Biden, what do you say when I tell you that you're undercutting your own campaign and you are propping up the Democratic message, which is that they are the lesser of two evil and you have to vote for Joe Biden so we don't have fascism? By the way, we already have fascism. As we all know, the fascism is the joining of corporate and government to screw the worker. And that's exactly what Joe Biden, the Democrats, and Pete Buttigieg did. And so they will keep doing it, and they're not stopping it. And they're also for censorship, which is the hallmark of fascism. So this idea that Donald Trump is more of a fascist than Joe Biden undermines your own campaign. There's no doubt about that. And so what I would encourage you to stop doing that. What do you say back?
Okay, so I didn't think he was going to stop talking. All right, so anybody who knows Cornel West already knows his position on this. Like I said, I done read all his books. I done probably seen just about every interview, every sermon this dude has produced. Fascism is fascism. It's in the Republican Party. It's in the Democratic Party. I guess if you want to say who's worse and who, we all know, and anyone who's voting for Cornel West is not going to be like, oh, Dr. Cornel West said Trump is a bigger fascist than Joe Biden, so I'm gonna vote Joe Biden. That's not even going to process in a sane person's mind. Who would think that? You know what I'm saying? Cornel West has, thank God, a history on talking about and combating this type of thing. So you might be able to swindle a Vivek with this who doesn't have that kind of history. But let's listen to what Cornel West has to say about this, and you can't argue it. Let's listen.
Hey, no, we deeply disagree on that, though, brother. I don't think, and this is where I disagree with Nick too, that, and I appreciate your advice here, you know, cast in a respectful way, but we do, and I disagree with Brother Nick on this too, that man, I just got back from Mississippi. You know that. You know what the Jenkins and Parkins, the two brothers brutalized by the police. There at the church, the Klan still running wild, not just with votes, but terrorizing black folk. The Goon Squad finally got caught by the two lawyers, Brother Malik and Brother Trent. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you talk about fascism, you're talking not just about the rule of big money, not just the rule of big military, not just the rule of corporate power, so that it's oligarchic in essence, but you're also talking about dictatorial rule, no elections, the elimination of dissident voices, and then the scapegoating of the most vulnerable, which it could be immigrants, it could be workers, it could be black people, Jews, Arabs, and so forth. See, with under Biden, what you have is a fascist dimension domestically, especially against black folk and others. you and I, the very fact that we're having this dialogue without being eliminated overnight, a fascist regime could completely call into question with the use of arbitrary power. That's what happens in the mass incarceration regime vis-a-vis poor black people and others. Right. So that is the fascist dimension. Similarly, so in terms of militarism abroad, so that there's fascist elements, my brother, there's fascist dimensions. But with Trump, when you have calling into question transfer of power and so forth, that is not the same thing. And so that doesn't undermine my campaign at all. The campaign's about truth.
100% undermines your campaign. 100%. You're shooting yourself right in the dick before you even start. So that's just bad. You're getting bad advice. I don't know who's advising you, but they're giving you horrible advice.
January. I'm a free man. I'm a free man, brother.
So January.
It's weird how, because Jimmy Dore, I guess at some point wanted to run for president, but got dropped quick. So it's kind of weird how someone who can't even start up a campaign is trying to give an intellectual like Cornel West campaign advice. Are you going to take advice? You're trying to be a football player. You're going to take advice from someone who can't even make a high school team, where they just let everyone on the team, and that person can't even make the team. So you're going to take advice from that person? No, you're not. So once again, I don't understand how it's difficult to say Trump is a fascist. Joe Biden is a fascist. It's just different parts of it, because fascism is not just one specific definition. It's really complicated. Like I had to read a book. I forget how fascism works. I forget who authored it, but it's complicated. You can't just be like, oh, he's a fascist. That's it. It's dimensions to it. And Biden is playing one part of it, and Trump is playing a more dangerous part when you're questioning transfer of power. Hey, look this up. It's a slippery slope after that for sure. So why can't you have it both? You can, walk and chew gum at the same time. Now, what Jimmy Dore, what I think he's trying to do is trying to tell Cornel West to say Joe Biden is a bigger fascist, so it will bring in more votes, which I could see from a strategic way, like, hey, Joe Biden is worse than Trump, so Democrats vote for me. I mean, I get that, but Cornel West is going to be honest. He's A1 since day one. So he's going to say, hey, guess what? I still believe Trump is a bigger fascist, but Joe Biden, he's a fascist in a whole different way that still disproportionately targets black folks and brown folks. So, I mean, if you want to vote for the lesser evil, sure. But if you don't want to vote for any evil, vote for Dr. Cornel West. That's simple.
Human right. Under no circumstances shall any medical treatment or procedure, including psychotropic medications, vaccines, or other injectable treatments, be mandated or coerced. Individuals should be allowed to protect and heal themselves in a manner that best supports their medical spiritual beliefs. So, I just wanted. I don't understand why you aren't outraged by that. Do you share the sentiment of the Black Caucus of the Green Party, and have you talked to them?
Well, one thing, it's good to have a Green Party where you have a variety of different voices that are clashing, and the tensions are very real. I think there's no doubt that the pharmaceutical company has played a disproportionate role in shaping public policy. I think the kind of concerns that you and RFK Jr. and others have certainly are well grounded in that sense. On the other hand, we know there's been a whole host of vaccines in regard to other kinds of illnesses that are much more effective. The question becomes making sure, and one of the things I want to do, I want to have a truth commission to find out exactly what was the level of corruption that took place during these years, be able to see not just the text, we know the books are out there, but to have a truth commission so that we can see what voices were marginalized, what voices were pushed aside, and make sure it never happens again. I resonate with the spirit of what my Green Black brothers and sisters the same, but the Green Party itself does allow this kind of disagreement and so on. But I'll say this though, brother, I know I got to go, but I must say, you see, this is where you and I do in some ways live in different worlds, because as crucial and as important as the issue of vaccines and the COVID situation was, when you say that's probably the most important issue in your lifetime or in the last 25 or 30 years, in light of all the wars, in light of what Palestinians are going through, in light of what workers are going through, 63% of them are living paycheck to paycheck, in terms of all the vicious attacks of the police and the murders and so forth, and yet this vaccine issue is the most important thing. I say, okay, that's my dear brother Jimmy. He's got a right to raise his voice. I'm not going to in any way push it away, but I just live in a different world. As important as vaccines have been, if I had another chance, I'd be leaning much more with the Black caucus. But when I think of the weightiest issues, vaccines does not come immediately to mind. It just doesn't. That's the kind of world we live in, brother.
Okay.
Maybe I'll spend,
Well, here it is. The black business owners collapsed by 41%. Black business because of lockdowns. Do you care yet?
Well, no,
70,000 workers in one state were fired because of vaccine mandates. When are you going to care? Do they all have to be trans? When are you going to care about these workers? What are you going to care about? What are you going to care about this?
They have to be trans for me to care.
You don't care. You don't care. Why don't you care about this?
Why would you accuse me? Of course I care about it.
You're saying it's not important.
I didn't say it wasn't important. I said it was not the most fundamental issue in my lifetime the last 30 years.
Forced medical experiments? Forced medical experiments that the scheme.
Where is the nuance?
Oh my God.
Where's the complexity?
So you missed this story and you're not interested in getting it right.
You agree with Jimmy Dore.
So you missed this story and you're not interested. Well, Dr. West, I wish you the best. You know I love you. You know I support.
You and your precious wife and your family. Stay strong, though, brother.
Okay, I wish you all the best. I love you. Thanks for coming on. I really do wish you all the best. And I just wish you had a clearer message to reach people, but you don't. It's muddled and it's a loser. So, Dr.
Oh, my. Okay. He said it. Jimmy Dore had the caucasity to sit here and try to preach to Dr. Cornel West, who's been an activist, an advocate, and boots on the ground since day one. I would just assume Dr. West came out his mama's womb with that suit on and that fro, and with the same ideas and the same love for black folks as he does now. How are you going to try to coach somebody, tell somebody on how they should love their own people like a Cornel West? It's like telling Tom Brady, okay? It's like telling Muhammad Ali, okay? It's like telling Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant on how to play their sport. And you're not even in the same area as them. Someone trying to tell Kobe Bryant how to be great at the game, and that person's never even shot a basket, never even shot a basketball. You trying to tell Tom Brady how to throw a football, and you never even been on a football field. What? The things people would do to try to be relevant. Okay, I understand in the realm of politics, everyone has their opinion. Everyone has their own voice in the matter. I get that. I get it. Trust me. I'm on YouTube. That's what I do. But I would never tell someone like a Vivek, okay? As much as I dislike Vivek, I would never try to position myself to tell him how he should run a business. And I've never ran a business of that magnitude. Even though, it might be a little shady on how he kind of did it. But nevertheless, he has more money than me. And he got it. You know what I'm saying? So I would never be like, hey, Vivek, you're running your business incorrectly. You need to do this, that, and the third. Like, no, I'm going to look ridiculous. So how is Jimmy Dore going to try to position himself? Which, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But how is he going to try to position himself to try to teach Cornel West on how he should love and handle Black people? Now, once again, the pandemic that disenfranchised even more. I mean, if we can look at healthcare, look how a lot of these communities were disproportionately destroyed by COVID. I mean, you know, that's a whole nother conversation, but it happened because of our lack of systems for these communities. But let me tell you this, and this is what Dr. Cornel West was trying to tell Jimmy Dore, and this is really important that you listen. If you think the COVID-19 and the shutdowns were, you know, one of the greatest, you know, phenomenons that we had to live through, one of the greatest destructive pandemics that we had to live through, let me put you on game real quick. Black folks have been living through that type of trauma for decades, for centuries. This is nothing new to Black folks. To be honest, that was nothing in my lifetime. And I'm only 36 years old, so I mean, it's kind of weird that, you know, folks is like, if you're as old as someone like a Dr. Cornel, you done seen some things. You done read some things. You done heard some things. This is nothing to Black folks. Black folks are it's in our DNA to bounce back. You know what I'm saying? COVID-19, what? That's not going to destroy Black folks. It shut down how many businesses? Oh, okay, let's look at the numbers of how many businesses were destroyed during the 1940s. I mean, we can really go back in history. You know what I'm saying? So you cannot, Jimmy Dore, you cannot be that desperate for attention to try to go after someone like a Cornel West, bro. Hey, Jimmy, stay in your lane. Jimmy, stay in your lane. Okay, Jimmy? So, but once again, I got an open door policy. Okay? Let's have that conversation. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about if Cornel West is wrong about anything. Let me know in the comments down below. And like always, let's have that conversation.